Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Baseball Without Borders, a podcast from the World Baseball Network. This is the 37th episode, and I title it after a pitcher that wore number 37, but I can't think of any at the moment. So, joined by Matthew
Strasburg.
Tallerini. Who?
Strasburg.
Strasburg. Yeah, Steven
Yeah.
Strasburg. Duh.
Yeah.
Um, couldn't process that one quickly enough, but he did, in fact, wear number 37. Joined by my colleague Matthew Tallerini, who is quick on the recall of Steven Strasburg's jersey number for this episode. And Matt, Shohei Ohtani continuing to impress. 2 home runs last night. He's near the top of the league in home runs. He's near the top of the league as a pitcher. I mean, short of Aaron Judge hitting 70 home runs this year, is there anybody else who could possibly compete for the AL MVP?
I mean, what Ohtani's doing this year, I think he'll be well deserved. I mean, just let alone what he is capable of doing. We saw that a few months ago in the World Baseball Classic. I mean, striking out his teammate, Mike Trout coming out of the bullpen. I think that was what really set the tone for him to have this type of year and to stay healthy. I mean, what Ohtani has done in the major leagues, like since he's been on a major league field, has been so impressive. During the last 5 seasons, and I just think that he is, on a planet of his own, pretty much. I mean, look at his stats this year up to date. Besides like him batting 269 yesterday, his ERA, I mean 2.91, right? His ERA is at 2.91. He's 5-1 through 11 games start, 65 innings pitched, 90 strikeouts. His whip is below 1 at 0.95. And I think this year he's really proven a lot to the world that that he can not only play at this level, but play on a level that nobody else, can seem to figure out how he's good or how to stop him in this case. I mean, his average, being alone just right before 270 at 269, he's played in 55 games, 212 at bats. I mean, 57 hits he's recorded this year. 8 doubles, 15 home runs, 38 RBIs, has drawn 24 walks. Maybe the strikeouts can be a little limited at 54. But I think he's done what the Angels have really expected him to do, and it's just be a consistent player. And I mean, the only thing the Angels are really missing is a key part of what their starting rotation is outside of him and Patrick Sandoval, to be honest. Your
Yeah,
thoughts, wife?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, you know, I think there's very little dispute that Ohtani is the best player in Major League Baseball right now, and I think there's very little argument to contradict that. You can point to players that are good, but nobody is good 2 ways the way Ohtani is. I'd like to think that there's another one coming out of Clemson, but Caden Grice is still 4 or 5 years away. I think the sad thing about the Angels is that beyond Trout and Ohtani, they just they don't have a team that's going to get them to the playoffs. They're just not deep enough, and I think for as long as Artie Moreno has owned the team, and he's done a lot of good with the franchise. The more Disneyfied aspects of the Big A have been taken out. It's back to being a baseball stadium that feels like a baseball stadium. Um, the Angels aren't going anywhere, but they're not going to move. But they're also not really going anywhere on the field, despite having 2 of the best players in baseball, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, look at Mike Trout from the other night. I mean, he passed Joe DiMaggio's home run record, and I just think, what the Angels have, right? Like 2 core players like Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. I guess, is that what they're gonna run with to fill attendance? Because I think, playing consistent baseball, let alone and going into October, really moves a lot of people coming to the ballpark, ticket sales, and all those configurations. So I just think that, like those type of players that are on a team like the Angels, they are the baby brother of the Dodgers. I mean, you know, the Dodgers did win in 2020 during the Mickey Mouse season, but it's like, what's it gonna take for Artie Moreno to just figure out, other alignments to get, starting pitching? And I think that's the big key in the middle of the season. If you have an idea to get certain key guys in your rotation that are available, in the market, or let alone that are available to work out certain trades with, they could make a run at this. But the Astros, I think the Rangers have a decent offense. It's going to be tough for the Angels to really, um, you know, move through playing that much of consistent baseball if they don't have starting pitching outside of what their lineup is and their starting rotation with Ohtani and Sandoval. So,
Yeah, I mean the depth just isn't there, right? And
mm,
as far as the team playing meaningful games in October, I mean, what gets lost is that there's an old saying in the minor leagues, because when I worked in minor league hockey, we were constantly battling to get people to come to the games, especially with teams that aren't good. And there's an old saying: "Winning solves all problems and sells tickets." And it really does. If you could put a winning product on the field, people are going to come out to the ballpark. If you could put a winning product on the field, you're going to be able to sell sponsorships a lot easier. You're going to be able to sell luxury boxes a lot easier. And part of that is playing meaningful baseball games after the trade deadline and in September, and hopefully in October. And hopefully the one day the fans in Anaheim are going to get there, but it's certainly been a long time.
yeah, without a doubt. It has been a long time, almost 20 years since they won the World Series. So I mean, it's definitely long overdue for the Angels that have been, even from their first World Series championship in their franchise in 2002. I felt like even, 21 years ago, if that rally monkey does not exist, I feel like that's the curse for them, to be honest, and other, rituals of sports. If you want to go above and take it that far. But yeah, last night in Major League Baseball, I think, like, what really surprised me was Julio Terrion. He's had a
Julio
weird
Teheran, yeah.
on, yeah. He's had like such a different retrospect of his playing career. And I think now he's found himself in a more different, atmosphere playing in Milwaukee, smaller market. Yeah, it's a few starts that he has had since he's been picked up. But yesterday, I mean, he got his record to 500 at 1-1 for through several starts. He does have a 0.82 earned run average, so I mean he could be a key part of this Milwaukee Brewers starting pitching rotation down the line. He just allowed 4 hits, no earned runs, no walks, no strikeouts, but the factor in is that he did that with a limited pitch count. He had 79 pitches yesterday, let alone. So, like, what more can you ask out of Julio Terrion's performance from Milwaukee yesterday?
Yeah,
In that
not to
aspect.
mention that he spent last year split between two teams in the Mexican League and the Staten Island Ferry Hawks. And I mean the Mexican League is a very very good league and doesn't get the credit that it deserves. When you look at leagues like Japan, the NPB, the KBO, people think that the Mexican League isn't that good, but it absolutely is. It was technically a AAA league for quite a long time, and there's a lot of good players in it. But at the same time, guys that go down there from that have played in the major leagues, you don't see them come back terribly often.
No, it's not like a scouting pool. I mean, for players that have played in the major leagues that go to Mexico and go back to the major leagues. It's a rare feel for that, what Julio Terrion's doing. And And I think several players that have played in Mexico the last few years, like Roberto Ozuna, he played for the Diablos de Rojos ball club out of Mexico City during the last few seasons after he was not reinstated with Major League Baseball due to his domestic violence suit. Jose Cafe Martinez, he's playing with the 2022 Serie del Rey Leones de Yucatan champion. So those two key guys that have had trail end careers in Major League Baseball for, say, I mean, even if they're still playing in Mexico consistently, well, Ozuna's playing for in Nippon Professional Baseball for the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks. A lot of these players have different marks in their career to go play in Mexico, and it's just a rare feed that what Tyrion has been doing, like I said before, that he's playing back in the major leagues, and I feel like the Cartagena native, he, like from Colombia, I think he's got what it takes to sustain a major league career. He's 32 years old, but at this rate, you got to do it now, or else there's no coming back from anything else in your mechanics to pitch as consistently. And I think you know, what he did in 2020, I'm looking at his stats. I mean, when he played for the Angels in 10 games, he was 0 4. He had a 10.05 earned run average. You didn't have a minor league season in 2020, so you couldn't, demote or reassign somebody, to the minor leagues as efficiently because they weren't, you know, pitching against, live simulation at bats as more efficiently. So I think that's kind of like a little mirror image of his career with the Angels for that one season in 2020. But through two starts, 0.82 earn run average in 11 innings, I think he has what it takes to help the Brewers starting rotation down the course of the season.
And they're probably getting him at a very very low price too, because he's probably getting just a little more than the league minimum. Let's talk about two pitching performances in Major League Baseball last night. First, let's talk about Mitch Keller, who we talked about on Tuesday a little bit. Pirates at the Giants last night. The Buccos win 9-4. Keller goes 6 full innings, gives up 10 hits, but only 4 runs, and it was good enough. It held up. He gets the win. Of course, pitching win is a meaningless statistic, as we know, but he struck out 8, threw 2 wild pitches, walked 1. So, another great outing for Mitch Keller, and he's going to be in the NL Cy Young conversation.
Yeah, without a question. I think even guys like go on the offensive side, Andrew McCutchen went 3 for 4 yesterday with a double, a walk, 1 run batted in, 2 run scores, a stolen base. McCutchen has really filled the void, honestly, for that Bucks offense, and I think it's key of what he has done this year. Playing in 49 games as of now through 172 at bats, um, collecting 47 hits and 8 home runs, 21 RBIs. McCutchen has really helped a lot with the Pittsburgh Pirates offense. And I think he's a big factor of their success this season, without a doubt. I think Jiwan Bay also he's been helping out tremendously for the Bucks this year offensively too in his second year in Major League Baseball. So 41 hits he's had this year, 51 games he's been playing in through 149 at bats. Even though 2 home runs and 12 RBIs, you know, those numbers can get up from him and he can work counts as efficiently. But 15 stolen bases, if you are aggressive on the base paths through that aspect right now, especially during this time of the year, that's going to pay off even going into the All-Star break and after the All-Star break of where your team is consistently and his on base plus slugging percentage that can go up from 698. I think he can utilize that, through his play discipline, honestly, because he does work counts efficiently, center fielder G1 Bay. So I think those two players have really helped for the Pirates down this course of the season. What do you say, Life?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched the Pirates a ton this year. It seems like every time I turn on MLB Network, the Pirates are on. So, the name that I keep hearing coming out of my TV is Spencer Torkelson, the first overall pick from 2 years ago.
Mhm.
But a guy like Keller is going to provide the Pirates with a lot of value, and I would expect if he wins the Cy Young, they signed Brian Reynolds earlier this year to an extension. I would expect to see Keller be put on the trade block at some point to try and get some kind of return for three or four guys that are a one or two WAR players uh, over the course of the season. So slightly better than average players that are serviceable major leaguers before the Pirates have to pay Keller. I would expect to see him shipped out of town, but that's just my opinion. Um, Elsewhere in Major League Baseball last night, the Yankees fall 1-0 to the Padres, and a local guy for us, George Kirby, originally from Rye, New York, pitched for the Rye Garnets in high school before going to Elon College. Actually, it's Elon University now in North Carolina, just outside Greensboro. Went 8 full innings, 3 hits, no runs, 7 strikeouts, no walks for the Mariners. And it's funny because 6 years ago I was watching him pitch at Disbro Park in high school, and it was pretty obvious that he was a special kid. Already throwing high 80s, low 90s, getting a lot of attention from scouts. Although he went away to college, so he was drafted by the Mets in the 32nd round after his senior year of high school in 2016, and then went away to college and was drafted in the first round, 20th overall by Seattle. And it just goes to show what a couple years of development in college can do for a young pitcher. But last night, what a performance by Kirby. I mean, shutting down the Yankees lineup, which is very top heavy, 6 through 9, 5 through 9 in the Yankees lineup, not as strong as Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone would like. But for Kirby to go up there and do that, the AL West is a weak division, but having a guy like him in the rotation can show that the Mariners will be competitive outside the division when it comes September or early October.
Yeah, no, I think definitely Seattle could be in the mix. Let alone in that division. I think they are a wild card seed, but I think it would be interesting to how if George Kirby can maintain a lot of his mechanics consistently, I think that he can be a big part of filling crucial innings, like even coming into the first month of September, if he sustains being healthy, let alone. I think that's a big key part, and how Luis Castillo pitches. I mean, if you have those two guys pretty much pitching consistently, let alone what you're filling into that rotation for the Seattle Mariners, I think that they can, fill a good amount of innings for that pitching staff without a doubt. And yeah, I think, what even with the Yankees too, like Clark Schmidt pitched well yesterday, but it's rare form to see him, really dial in like this because I do see Clark Schmidt as a reliever. And what he did last night, I mean, what more can you ask? I mean, 5 and 2/3, 3 hits allowed, no earned runs, 1 walk, striking out 7 batters. Yeah, his ERA is at 5.01 at this rate of the season. He did that through 84 pitches. I mean, that's pretty good of what you know he was like not pitching as effectively during the beginning part of the season. I think Clark Schmidt with his overall record at 2-5, through 12 games, pitching 55.2 innings, allowing 65 hits and 8 home runs does seem like a little bit a lot, but then yet again, I think it's that what he's doing right now, Clark Schmidt. I think that he can be in form to be a late part of the Yankees bullpen this year, but for what he did last night, I think he pitched exceptionally well going off against a really tough lineup, like the Seattle Mariners, to be honest.
Elsewhere, the Mets getting the win last night, 4-1 over the Philadelphia Phillies. Mark Canha, 4 RBIs and his first home run of the season. And here's a guy that kind of got put on the bench. He lost some at bats when Mark Vientos gets called up, but you know, he embraced the role that he had to take to help the team win. And last night comes out 2-run homer, 4 RBI day, and the Mets 2 games over 500. I don't think that's exactly where they'd like to be, but certainly they're progressing a little bit. And I still think that the Mets could possibly win the division. It's going to depend on them beating the teams that are below them handily and regularly.
Yeah, I think Cookie Rojas, Carlo. I mean Cookie Rojas, Carlo. I mean Carlos Cookie Carrasco, Cookie Rojas, throwing it back 35 years ago with that name. I think Carrasco did what he could yesterday. Like 6 innings, 6 hits, allowed 1 earned run, walking one batter, striking out four. Um, I think Carlos Carrasco can really help the Mets rotation. I mean, Scherzer and like those type and Senga, let alone with his split finger ghost fork pitch. I think that that type of rotation that if Verlander's healthy as well with the Mets, I think that the Mets can win this division. It's not out of the picture for them yet. Let alone they are in third place at 29 and 27. So I think I just think the Mets can really fulfill what they can out of their starting rotation, to be honest. Like, let alone yesterday, Edmundo Sosa had that one home run for the Phillies. That was just the lone home run of the game that Carrasco gave up for damage. The Mets bullpen looked solid yesterday. They only allowed 3 total hits, um, 7 strikeouts, let alone like David Robertson too. I think if you have a key late bullpen with not having Edwin Diaz there um, during the whole season, I think Robertson and Adam Ottavino can really fill in key holes for the late part of the bullpen for the New York Mets.
Yeah. Okay. So one more notable thing: the college NCAA baseball tournament gets underway tomorrow. But a little bit of news out of Nashville, Tennessee. Vanderbilt going to renovate Hawkins Field, the home of the Commodores, one of the top college baseball programs in the country. Matt, tell us a little bit more about the renovation that they've got planned down there.
Yeah, so I'm just looking on the website right now that they're trying to pretty much expand a lot of like new amenities to the stadium. They want to add like a athletic village on campus that's kind of like corresponded with, if you ever been to the Texas Rangers new stadium, Globe Life Park, they have like a Texas Live, but in this case you have it, on campus with certain amenities that they want to pretty much add in Nashville. I think that's key to have. It's key to have like other just external student center stuff. I think that's going to be a big part of what they want to do. They want to add a second grandstand level to their stadium, so it's a new deck of seats that they're going to add above the existing grandstand, and that'll raise their seating capacity to 10%. Um, they're going to have multiple innovative club spaces down the left field line and behind home plate seating. Um, I mean, we haven't seen this in college baseball. We haven't seen stadiums like this as added now to what the MLB stadiums have been looking like the last 15 years, right? So you add premium seating like Yankee Stadium or Dodger Stadium, for example. I wonder how that's going to correspond to like all these, Division One mega programs in NCAA. I think that's going to be, be a big key part. Even adding private suites. That's what Vanderbilt University is looking to do. They're going to add private suites all around the stadium of their baseball field. Um, and yeah, they're gonna also add a new multi-purpose building, 20,000 square foot building beyond right field. Um, so for fans and students just to like take a peek in if they're not actually in the ballpark itself. But I mean, what Tim Corbin has done, with the program during the last few seasons and during his time at Vanderbilt University, I think this is a major facelift that the institution is getting with having a big development on the grounds of their university to extend their stadium.
Yeah, I think at a lot of college baseball programs don't make money, right? It's not a revenue sport at a lot of programs, but for a lot of the SEC schools, baseball brings in revenue. And when you're a revenue positive program, the thought is always, how can we bring in more revenue? So I think, you're going to see more places around the SEC probably try and do some kind of renovation like this. I think Nashville, um, Vanderbilt's home city, it's easy for them to justify doing this because they're in a big metro area, really bigger than most of the schools in the SEC. So by adding these suites, maybe they could be a little bit more of a draw and draw some more fans to the ballpark, increase their athletic department revenue. Considering that, you know, Vanderbilt's a great university academically, and they have a pretty good athletic program. Obviously, basketball and football are bigger draws than baseball. Even though Vanderbilt's football team never near the top of the SEC, but certainly any positive revenue is going to be welcomed anywhere in college sports. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more teams do something like this. So with that said, Matt, what are we looking forward to around Major League Baseball today?
Today we only got a few games. Thursday cap. I'll give you the rundown in just a few seconds. So, first day of June. We got some games on our way right now, coming up at the top of the hour. Blue Jays at 29-27 and taking on the Brewers at 29-26. That game's going to be on your way at 1 o'clock. Just a few minutes. We'll have that. We'll correspond to that once the podcast is up. Phillies Mets, they're at 1 o'clock. Also, they're just going to be on their way. Also at 1 o'clock. Mets are at 29-27. Phillies are at 25-30. Max Scherzer's on the mound for the Mets today. He's 4-2 with a 3.54 earned run average at this time frame of the season. Tajon Walker is going to go for the Philadelphia Phillies. He's at 4-2 with a 5.57 earned run average. The Marlins and the Padres, a little early for San Diego. That's a little 10 o'clock start on the Pacific Coast, 105 Eastern, just going underway too. The Marlins are at 29-27, just 2 games above 500, while the Padres are 5 games below 500 at 25-30. The Marlins are going to have Jesus Luzardo, who I think he could be a candidate to be an all-star this year. In my opinion, he's been pitching well. He's at 4-3 with a 3.67 earned run average. Joe Musgrove is going to go for the Padres. He's at 2-2 with a 5.64 ERA. And we got 4 more games on tap for Major League Baseball. 3:40 p.m. start time. Colorado Rockies 24-33 going up against the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're 10 games above 500 at 33-23. And 2 7 o'clock games. We got the Cincinnati Reds at 26-29 playing the Boston Red Sox at 28-27. That's going to start at 7:10 p.m. first pitch. Um, Chris Sale's on the mound. He's 5-2 with a 4.72 ERA. I think he can really dial up like good amount of innings today against that Reds offense. Hunter Green, he's struggling a little bit this year with being at 1-4. 4.1 earned run average. I think he's got to maintain a little bit of his mechanics today against that tough Red Sox offense. And yeah, 2 more games today too. 7:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Twins and the Guardians are going to play. At that time frame, Pablo Lopez at 3-3 with a 4.11 ERA. I think he has what it takes, to really pitch well. Also today, and Cleveland's going to go with Tanner Bibby. He's at 1-1 with his earned run average of 2.88 during this course of the season. Houston has not announced their starter yet today, but the Angels are going to this is the last game that's going to be on tap for Thursday at 8:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Angels are going to go with Red Detmers. He's at 0-4 with a 4.93 ERA right now. The Angels are 30-27 with 3 games above 500, and the Astros are 32-23, still atop the NL West. So yeah, I mean, what more can you ask? It's a little slate for oh no, well they're 3 games back of the NL West. I'm sorry, AL West. I'm sorry, with the Texas Rangers. So yeah, just a few games today for Thursday in Major League Baseball. While tomorrow is the first day of the NCAA regionals to cap off the NCAA tournament. What are your thoughts, Life, on day one of the NCAA tournament
Yeah,
tomorrow?
I mean, I think the big game to watch. I think if you're watching for MLB prospects, I think you watch Wake Forest and hope to see Brett Lauder. I think you watch Clemson and watch Caden Grice. I don't know if Caden Grice is going to be pitching tomorrow, but if he is, it's still if even if he isn't, it's still worth watching Clemson because he'll be playing first base and he's tremendous with the bat.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's a lot of good action around college baseball. Obviously, the teams that are hosting the regionals are the 1 seed, so they're going to be playing the 4 seed, which is the weakest team in their respective regional first, and they'll get the chance to advance. Some of those 2-3 games are always pretty good. Some of the 1-4 games, especially like Wake Forest is the top seed nationally. I don't expect Wake Forest to have any trouble tomorrow when the tournament gets underway, but you never know. Because baseball, even in college, is still baseball, and any of those teams can win. But let's take a look. Wake Forest playing George Mason. George Mason's 34-25. That game's at 7 o'clock tomorrow. You can watch it on ESPN Plus. I would probably make plans to watch that if you're not going to be watching Major League Baseball. Um, Elsewhere, let me just take a look here. Clemson is going to be playing Lipscomb. Clemson's going to be at home. That game's going to be at 1 o'clock on ESPN Plus in the afternoon. Clemson 43-17, Lipscomb 36-24. So there's 32 games tomorrow to be watched around the college baseball tournament. So you know you can't go wrong picking any of them, but certainly some of the top seeds are definitely be worth watching. Interesting matchup. Oklahoma State going to play Oral Roberts tomorrow. Oral Roberts is actually 46-11. Oklahoma State's 41-18. I don't necessarily think that Oral Roberts is as good a team as Oklahoma State because they're not. But they've racked up a lot of wins, so we'll see what happens over the course of that one tomorrow. Alabama hosting; they're the 16 seed overall, and that's a program that has been buffeted by some stuff. They've the coach was fired due to some gambling allegations that came out mid-season, and the team has gone on to be very, very good in spite of that. So they're playing Nicholls State tomorrow, 7 p.m. ESPN Plus. That's another good one to watch. Scott Forbes in North Carolina, they're playing Iowa at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. That'll be on the ACC network. And out west, probably the best late game to watch is going to be Arizona versus TCU. TCU coming off the Big 12 tournament title. They're 37-22, Arizona 33-24. So those are some games to watch around the NCAA tournament if you are so inclined to do so tomorrow. So we'll be back with another edition of Baseball Without Borders on Monday. Regionals will still be going on around college baseball. And, there will be plenty of Major League Baseball over the weekend, too. So we look forward to bringing you all of that. So, as we frequently remind you, check out all our written journalism, www.worldbaseball.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And until next time, for Matt Tallerini, I'm Life Scott. Smoke 'em inside.